Hey everyone, how are you doing? This is a week 5 video for becoming a digital learner, and we're going to be continuing to learn more about Edgenuity. In particular today, we're going to dive into some of the options you have when working on a class. So I'm going to focus on Algebra 1A, but the skills we're going to learn will apply to any of your classes. So let's go ahead and go into the course map. And you can see I'm kind of near the beginning. The first lesson I've already done, and it even shows the quiz, but the quiz I didn't pass. So let's take a look at some things here and take a look at this quiz. You see I did one attempt and I actually have another attempt left. In Edgenuity, anytime you take a quiz, you generally need to get over 60% to be able to move on. And sometimes in some classes, you're actually blocked. So in this case, I did the quiz once and I got a 20%. So it's not letting me move on because I need to do a retake. I need to show that I improved some stuff. But one thing is nice is you can actually look over and see your attempts and see what questions you missed. So let me click on attempt 1. And good students will take the time to go through quizzes in Edgenuity. So you can see here, I can see an X for anything that I missed. And it's even set up where I can see what the answer should be. So in this one, what is the value of X? I solved that equation. I put 15 in for Y. When I solved it out, I guessed that it was 80, but really the answer should be 200. And so I need to go back and check my work and see if I can fix the problem. Sometimes reviewing quizzes is just as good of a learning experience as it is when you're doing the lesson. So I can go through things. I did get a couple questions right. And I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and go back out. And now let's take the second attempt on the quiz. Once you're in it, there's a couple tools I want to point out to you. Notice you have a little timeline, so you can't just sit here and leave and come back and leave and come back and leave. I need to finish the quiz in 2 hours, which is plenty of time for 10 questions. But it means when I start a quiz, I need to be able to finish it in that time period. There's also some tools here. You have a highlighter. So if there's any time where I want to focus on something, either when I'm reading or doing any sort of quiz, it's just a tool to help me engage with what I'm reading. I have a calculator, different graphing calculators, things that I could use. So maybe when I'm working on math, I can pull up the calculator and have it handy. And there's some other graphing tools as well that may, depending on what math class you're taking, may be helpful. So let me just go ahead and answer this really fast. And let's see what my new score is. Okay, so I've gone through this whole quiz. I re-answered all 10 questions. And I've scrolled down. I'm ready to go ahead and submit this. And much better. I did a good job studying, reviewing, and did a much better job on this quiz. Got a 90%. I still missed one question, so I can go in. And I can see I got all of them right except for number 9. And it's the same one. Solve what is the value of X? It should be 200. I clicked 80 again. All right. So there we go. So on this quiz, I got 90%. I'll now be able to move on into the next lesson. And one thing I want to point out, as you're working on things, on the bottom right is where you can click to next activity. Sometimes that's hard to see for some students, so make sure you scroll down all the way. Sometimes stuff is hidden if you're not looking at the right spot. Also, we looked at some of these tools right here in the middle of the quiz. This plus sign opens up a whole bunch of other tools. So there's my e-notes. Whenever I'm taking a quiz or a test, I have access to any notes that I have. So I'm going to show you a little bit on how to do those later on when we get to a lesson. But those are right here. So if I'm working on a quiz and I want to look back over my notes, I can pull those open and still work on the quiz simultaneously. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to click back into the home. And look at there. On this first lesson, now I've completed everything, all the components. By the way, this is one whole lesson. So if you're trying to do 3 lessons, usually it's about 3 lessons a week to keep up in your Edgenuity class. All of this is one whole lesson. And by the time you do all this, expect to take maybe an hour, maybe even an hour and a half, or it depends on how you broke it up. But once everything's done, I can click on the next lesson. And I can see that now there's the warm up, and now I'm on the instruction. I'm going to go ahead and click into the instruction. I just want to show you a little bit of what's in here, what an instruction lesson looks like. Edgenuity is mostly video based. So let me go ahead and pause it. And you can see, let me point to a couple things. There's still my highlighter, still my calculator. On the right side, now I have access to my e-notes. I have access to a glossary. So if I want to look up vocabulary words, it's really important in all your classes. And I can look up a transcript in terms of what is being read aloud. So not only can I listen, not only can I watch, I can also read about what's happening while the lesson is going on as well too. Sometimes that's very helpful for students. Down below, I can see in terms of this instruction, there are 14 different parts to it. Generally, there's a video or a couple videos and a question, couple videos, question. I try and break it up. Each video is about 2 to 3 minutes. And it kind of walks us through some different things. Some other things here, I can turn on closed captioning. This is another way to read and also listen and watch a lesson at the same time. And there's some other things I can do in terms of the file. I can turn on the volume and close some of these things down. Okay, ready to watch the lesson. And you can see it's kind of like a lesson. There's a teacher. She's guiding me through some things, explaining some topics, and going over key things there. There's a couple of vocabulary words, so maybe I want to do some e-notes. I want to say, okay, continuous graphs. What are those? Made up of all points connected with no breaks. But I also want to learn about discrete graphs. That seems really important. Discrete graphs are finite and isolated points not connected. These are notes. This is a way to help engage in the lesson. And since it's all video based, I have the ability to play, pause, and do that. And I definitely recommend, as you're doing Edgenuity, take either some digital notes, pause it, think about the examples or the words or the characters or whatever lesson you're working on. Think about what you're reading and take some time to jot some notes down and then go back and keep watching it. It's helpful to break it up. It's really easy to just press play and sometimes zone out if you try and do it. And that's not the best way to do it. So pause, make sure you're actually thinking, am I understanding it? What did they just say? Did that make sense? Also, you can use e-notes. They save here, but you might also want to have a notebook where you're taking notes by hand. That is just fine as well too. And then you could write down on your paper there, continuous graphs are made up of connected points, discrete graphs are isolated points, and you could even draw an example of each graph too. It might even be a little bit easier for math to use handwritten notes. So you have two options. I would strongly recommend doing notes either way, because again, you can use those to review, you can use those on quizzes and tests and assignments, and it's just a way of helping you engage in the problem better. All right, here I am. I've finished this lesson. I'm going to make sure I save my notes. And what do I do now? It's stopped. Now I need to scroll down and I need to actually click on to go to the next square. So I just finished the first 2 squares. I need to move on to that 3rd square. I can click directly on it or I can just click the arrow. So at this point now I've done a little video. Now it's actually checking to make sure I understood what I just watched. So some of them are multiple choice, some of them are drag and drop. There's different types of activities. Some of them are short essay, but the design is to get you thinking about it and giving you some feedback. So here I need to kind of match stuff up. I'm going to do this really quick and think about what is continuous, what is discrete. I think I've matched it up. I put it in relationship. Now I need to click done. And there you go. I'm getting some feedback that yes, I did it correct. So instruction is like that. It'll help give you feedback. If you do miss it, it'll tell you you're wrong, give you a chance to fix it. And then we continue on. So again, now to move on to the next part, I have to click on the next arrow to go into the next square. And it looks like I have another video. Okay, so I can continue to add notes, continue to go through all these squares. This is what a whole lesson looks like. I'm going to go back out and let's show you some other features here. So I've made it all the way back out to the lobby. Now I want to show you some other ways to check how you're doing in a class. I'm going to click on the organizer. I'm going to go to reports. And this time, again, I can access my eNotes. I can look at my progress report. I'm going to look at my scores and feedback. I pull up that algebra class. And there's all the assignments that I've done so far. You can see I did really well. Warm-up instruction summary. You always get warm-up instruction summary always at 100. But you can see that they're not even counted towards my overall score. The only things that count are this assignment here. That counts, and it got a 72%. I got the quiz. I did 2 attempts, and I got a 90%, so it's keeping the high score. And those are the only 2 things affecting my grade. But maybe I want to look at this assignment and say, you know what, I really want to improve my grade. I'm going to click on that assignment. And I can look over all the different things I did. So you can go back and review assignments. And I can see that I missed this one right here. So you can review your work, and I can't redo it automatically, but I can put a request in for my teacher to say, hey, can I redo this assignment, please? I've reviewed it. I think I can do better. That would be one way to interact with your teacher, review your work, make sure you're understanding things before moving on. You definitely have that ability to do that in Edgenuity. Okay, let's back out. So what did we do? We looked at a lesson. We looked at how to redo a quiz. I'm going to power down here. We looked at different ways to take notes. We looked at different ways to get support while you're doing a lesson. And hopefully that helps you understand more of how Edgenuity works on a day-to-day basis.